Hello everyone, and welcome to a quick behind the scenes of my first Pathfinder one-shot that I ran over on Twitch just the other day. If you want to stop by and see I stream 4 times a week. This was the first time I've ever done a one-shot. I've done many campaigns that expand years and, dozens of sessions, So trying to plan a one-shot was a little different for me. So here is some of my experiences trying to plan a one-shot of people that I've never played before. That was part of the reason for the one-shot, is to try out new people and see how we would work together. So, welcome in. Strap yourselves in, and let's see what did go right and what went a little off the rails in this one-shot. So, right off the bat, one of the players wasn't there. So I only had 4 players. Thankfully, what I had planned wasn't all that difficult, so I knew that only having 4 players, I kind of planned around that. It wasn't a big deal. So So here, just to show you real quickly, these are all of the notes that I had for this one shot. Here is the opening spiel you heard me say, which actually worked out pretty well. I thought this was a nice little introduction. It didn't have to be too much, because again, one shot. This isn't going to be something that went so long. The names of the 3 main places and all of the different main NPCs. This is all I had on them. This is all I wrote. And you met most of these characters in the one shot. Tiala you only saw, you didn't talk to. Fonan you never saw. He was the chef at the Silver Goose. Nintara, you never really talked to her. She was the owner of the Silver Goose. She's a real tough case that would have, given the party a lot of trouble to try to make, trouble in her bar. So, the beginning went pretty much just as I expected. Teal got her butt kicked out because she was asking too many questions and was on her own. I wanted these people to seem strict, but not necessarily cruel to her. Which I think at first, when the party came up, they kind of thought they were being cruel to her. But no, it's more, she's barely a level 1 character that has no combat experience. So they were really protecting her. I will admit, the 2 people just sitting outside and staring in the windows was not expected at all. That was certainly not at all planned. But I think this part worked out pretty well. We had the more straight shooting kind of Rage Fang with the, hey, I need more money, and trying to be sneaky Billy here. We sat here maybe a little too long doing diplomacy checks and stuff, in my opinion, but it's what the party wanted to do. And I devoted about 45 minutes to this first starting it time. So when we came out of here, I was like, okay, there's about enough time. So they went out, talked to Teal. Now, there is an interesting thing about this, because if they actually went over to do her plan, some of you may have noticed that her Drake was sitting over here. During the session, one of the players brought up that you can't do this, and I looked it up, and he is correct. I thought you could summon your Eidolon within 30 feet of you as a summoner, so she was going to summon Paltresh here up on top of the roof, throw a rope up to him, and then get herself up here. It turns out one of them would have had to done the athletics check to get up there and then help the other up. So it really wouldn't have changed much. But this is one way that if for whatever reason they couldn't get the main quest out of him, they could eavesdrop with her. She would be up literally on the roof in order to do that. And I actually had, if you notice, there's this purple border all around. I could just fill it, so that then it kind of sort of looks like a roof, and then I could just, whoa. Then you can just hide everyone that's below, and voila, it's like you're on the roof. I mean, still you'll see some of these, and the walls will still get in the way, but I could at least simulate that they could be on the roof. So I had a plan if they went in that direction. As it turns out, that wasn't needed. So from there, Teal went her own way. I wasn't sure if Teal was ever going to join the party. I knew it was a possibility. As it turns out, she did, but I never knew for sure whether she was or not. And this certainly did not go at all how I expected. This is Crowbore, which they had a terrible time remembering his name, which I do understand. As a player, there are many times you can hear a name and go, what? But they butchered his name so badly that I wasn't ready to give it to him just yet until they were like Crowbar, and I'm like, okay, that's close enough. I mean, I thought they were literally trying to steal his map at first, so this was really when the chaos came in. I probably should have given out a hero point or two here. I noticed that I didn't do that at all during the session. It can be hard to find times to do it, and this was a bit of fun, even if it was a bit strange. This is like the only time we actually use the Parmesan token. This is Relamir's familiar. She has the speaking. She can aid in like diplomacy and thievery checks, but that player wrote it never really did any of that stuff, so she really didn't come up much. But yeah, it was a bit of fun, and getting through here, doing 2 points of damage to this poor guy from stomping on his toe. We were able to get out of here, and the party got all they needed. They maybe have, made it so it's more difficult for some of them to go into that shop, and unless, they buy a bunch of stuff to get his forgiveness. The dragon flying overhead that happened after this, in hindsight, I have no idea why I added it. It was just a cool thing to kind of show the power of the region, I think is more what my plan was for it. But to have her flying in overhead and just present that, the princess is this powerful. I think it's more I was trying to do world building, and in a one-shot, you don't really need to. I mean, I do plan to use this world for other things, so I don't mind doing that stuff, but it really didn't add anything in the end. So then the party left town. I wanted to ensure to set the tone on the way over here. I switched over from the crowd noise to the ambient forest noise for a brief time. Then when they got here, I wanted to exaggerate that there was nothing. So I turned off all of the sound. I turned off everything to make it that quiet. I also do have this creepy music I could have played. I considered doing it, but they already said like the crowd for them was loud. I mean, in Foundry you can control it yourself. So yeah, this horse, the main thing I wanted to accentuate about the horse here is that these creatures only eat the meat. I mean, it's not stated in their lore, but I wanted to establish how more alien and weird they are, because like other creatures will like crack open bones and suck out the marrow and do other things, so these bones would be very cracked. There would be much less intact, where with these aliens they didn't go for that, whether because they don't know about it, it just doesn't appeal to them. I don't exactly know. I just wanted to make something stand out, that something was weird, and I don't know if anybody caught on to that. This door was completely open, so until Ragefang critically failed his athletics check, this door was perfectly open. They could have just opened it. But so that's why it ended up wedged, because they rolled a 1. That's really the only reason. I did not plan anything special with this door. So they ended up going in through the window, which was kind of funny. This is Rordrik's body. That is exactly what it's meant to be. This is the father, husband there. And I wanted to start establishing that there was some kind of mental effect, psychics. It's why you maybe saw the message that I sent to Ruktuk, that there's things here that were psychic based, that were mental based, and I wanted to do that right away. Immediately upon entering this room, what I had is one of the Akadas down below is almost directly below this doorway. It's not exact, but it was close enough that I wanted their life sense to trigger. I don't actually know if life sense goes through walls. Technically, it probably doesn't, but it felt fitting. So this is where the first cracking started happening. And I expected the cracking to make them start to feel a sense of urgency, that they needed to deal with the thing before anything more happened. It turned out to not be at all the case. As they started poking around the crystal, they started looking down the hole and looting this room over here, which I understand. It's a room where, doesn't seem to be anybody here, so go ahead and loot the place. I do certainly understand that. But yeah, they see the cocoon down there and start just staring at it. And I'm like, okay, you hear a second crack. You see the crack spreading. What are you going to do about it? And they just kind of sat around for a long time. And it wasn't until William came over here and threw down a bomb that I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're not moving anywhere with this. I guess I need to add in the next part, which are these little guys. Now, I expected somebody to wander into this room and find these little guys. These are the coral capuchins that they talked about. They didn't really interact too much with these things. I didn't expect them to end up fighting them. But if I scroll over to my combats, you'll see I have them prepared in a combat in case it did happen. Or if for some reason they made it outside, or somehow things were moving too fast, there are also a bunch of monkeys hiding that are, since the coral capuchins are kind of look like monkeys, I was just looking for a level -1 beast to throw in there. So in case they became a battle, they were like a reinforcement I could call on, or whatever I needed them for. Again, they never came up. But yeah, these things do have an intelligence of -2, which means they can speak a language. They do speak common. They're not great at it, but they can. So they tried to get out, and it was about the perfect time that our other player was able to make it. So they were right there in front of the door. Now, knowing what their character is, well, technically, quickly before the campaign, they were a druid. So I figured they would love these things. These things are very fey kind of creatures. They're actually not fey, they're beasts. But they with their fairy wings, they do seem very fey. So either I figured they would really like them, or, as happened here, just let them go to go investigate what was going on. As I don't even think I described that there was a broken window here, so I think his reaction might have been even more different if I had actually described that more properly to them. And so they're still standing here. They're standing here around the crystal, around the hole, and I'm just describing it's cracking more and more because it's 1d4 minutes for them to get it to break out of the cocoon. So I just figured, okay, they have plenty of time. These are level 1 creatures, so they're scary. I figured they would be nice and staggered so that they could handle them one at a time, would be no problem. But with how long they took, having at least 2 of them hatch, and I maybe could have waited a round or 2 on the third one, but we'd taken enough time that I kind of wanted to get through them faster. So this is the thing with the one-shot, having the quick timer. I was feeling much more rushed sometimes. I mean, I like moving things along, but even so, I was a little rushed. This crater was definitely here on purpose. Though the fact that I said that there were 3 impact points here would be wrong. There should only be 2, because clearly one came crashing in through here. That's what made that hole. Again, that was just something in the moment that I kind of forgot. Because my all of my notes that I showed you, it's the intro and the NPCs. Kind of the things that happened here, I needed some more notes on. I needed to plan out a little more. I just kind of relied on making a map, some few enemies, and my ability to wing it. And I do that too much. I know some people say don't overplan, but I think there are definitely some things that I could use some more planning for. And so this is where Rordrik did touch one of these crystals. Now, I don't think I want to go entirely into detail what all of these do because I think if something more comes of this, I might possibly want to use these in another campaign. But you're immune for 24 hours after you make the save. That's why Rordrik could just carry the crystal around after his initial save, no problem. And then, yeah, they're made pretty much to show you horrifying visions of the end. It was a way to start foreshadowing Grodius and his apocalyptic thing, because that was what was summoning these. That was the whole idea, is that they finally had some outside help to go for it. Because, yeah, these are exactly beacons, like Ikik said later. They are the beacons that drew them here, and can be used to help guide where they're going to land. So this battle was crazy. You know how they say never split the party? Well, they split the party. So this battle, again, definitely did not go according to plan. I mean, the fact that I rolled 2 criticals right out of the gate really hurt this battle. To take huge chunks out of people. But then, because the party was so spread, they couldn't help each other. I purposely kind of had this one wake up a little slower. It took a little longer to get over than it probably should have. But that was fine. One of my plans, for those of you who may have noticed this was down here, is I did have a rat swarm prepared. Because part of my idea was to try and highlight each one of the characters, and because we took so long, I didn't really find a moment to do that. So this was a rat swarm that was going to, if they got into too much trouble, and our resident rat expert was going to be like down here fighting, summoning rats and stuff, there was going to be some pouring out of the walls in order to slow down and attack one of these creatures. It didn't really happen. I made notes, like I wanted little things that could help highlight each of the characters. That just never didn't really play out like I wanted. It would definitely be something that if I had more time, I could do in other sessions and things like that. I could certainly do that. Go say hi to the people, Peggy? This is my cat, Peggy, for those of you who haven't met her. You can come by the stream and feed her treats. Why are you yelling? Why were you yelling at me, huh? So they defeated it. The paladin was down a while. I really frown upon trying to steal from other party members and stuff, and I think the party did a fairly good job of keeping Billy off of that. This is a cooperative game, so a lot of threats, stealing from the party and stuff, they're not something that I want to really... They do happen, but they're not something I want to really encourage. I mean, there's plenty of characters that won't get along that great. That happens. But it's cooperative. You don't want to really have the time to do that. Though after this battle, everyone started running back upstairs. And so I'm like, oh no. Are they never going to find this secret door over here? Because thankfully, I think it was Billy Cordelia there that actually stated that, hey, aren't there 2 others? Which was good, because I had mentioned them before. And so I was very glad when they found them. I definitely did play them a little bit of wanting to just run away, get away, and I do understand that, but also the player brought up a good point of, yeah, they need to get the home in order. They need to bury her husband, which I assume in most Northern cultures is burying them, entombing them in stone besides their ancestors. I know half dwarf is a very weird thing. That's not something that really exists in pretty much any world, but because they were so frequent in my world, I wanted to show that this is one of those cases. It's why when talking to the blacksmith, he kind of made some off comment that it was weird, but they don't, you know, they didn't mention much of it. And it was very good that Rordrik was here with Cressida, because this group was just antagonizing and giving these people such a hard time. They were being such a chaos crew to them that it was very nice that there is a voice of reason in a party. That's always very welcome. And for doing things like that, for being so good, I did want to make sure, you know, thank you and hug them. And because I know there are many times that, sure, you can get some coins and stuff in D&D, but or tabletops, but there's also a human element to it. Of sometimes the smaller things can speak more because they don't happen as often. So we came back to town. The party came to collect their reward, which was fine. I definitely assumed that would be the first place they would go. So this is where I will fully admit I needed more notes. I had a lot of notes. I spent so much time making sure I had like 3 different ways, whether it was from Adrison, whether it was somebody in the bar, or in the blacksmith, matter of metal, to get them to the first one. And then the second one came up, and I was like, yeah, there's a suspicious house. It's growing that stuff. There's these shipments. All of this makes sense. Oh no, how do I tie it together? It was another case of where it was just like, oh, I know where I need to go. My improv will be fine. Maybe it wasn't so fine. Or maybe it was. Maybe the players never noticed until they watched this video. So yeah. I definitely had Ikik made before. Isaac, I never. He is a diviner. So if they ever actually like talk to him, he could actually... he has diviner sight. But he was meant to be a mentor, old man type, that if they ever messed up too much, it was a way to help out. So he was able to explain, you know. And this is also where I wanted to point out where they're not truly bullying Teal. They're trying to protect her. And this is actually the leader of the Golden Paragon. That's why she's, you know, got her own room and is locked and everything. So she was really just she just turned out to be a healer, which was fine. She could battle medicine. Because again, we didn't have a lot of time. We were already into extra innings. I didn't want to, you know, have her offering them, you know. At one point I was thinking, oh, maybe she could offer them, you know, a place in the guild and all this stuff. And well, if we ever came back to this, that could happen. So yeah, it was easy enough because Cressida left early to find Teal. This is where not a lot actually happened. Yeah, Teal was in here now. Was easy to talk to. She was my connection to the others. Tiala here was someone that's actually based off of one of my previous characters. For all of you who actually know my characters, I should this is really who it was. Whoops, not a rat swarm. That was the personality of pretty much the dwarf druid that was there. But I didn't want to make it that obvious. So yeah, if they talked to her, if it was good deeds they were doing, she did have a potion she could offer them, a healing, or but no, I was really gonna play up like her skittish nature, not wanting to know people. She wouldn't even, you know, ask people names, but if you're doing good, would help out. And there's the cook back there saying phone in, but he never got used either. So this conversation went pretty much as planned, and I fully expected the party to take a rest and to do this in the morning. but they themselves had such a sense of urgency, which is good. I think I had it seemed like a big enough crisis that they were like, no, we gotta go, even though I dropped a line or two of like, don't you want to like rest first? And they're like, no, we gotta go. So they went. Playing around with the tree, honestly, this corruption stuff I had to make up a lot of on the spot. I wanted it to be a sign that the crystals were around, a way to show that there's a reason they stopped at this house. But like half of the things about it I just had to make up on the spot. It was faster than I expected that they questioned the rug. I knew people had, played these kind of things enough that eventually somebody would, ask and figure about the rug. But they spotted it almost immediately. That is the whole reason that I made this a tile. So I can literally just shift it aside and show the hatch. I had an idea for what I wanted this scroll to say. That was something that I more or less made up on the spot. But again, it was just another way to really kind of build up the creepiness of these guys. The battle down below, I don't know, there's not a whole lot to say about the battle down there. Except that I tried to edit the cultist HP because I knew they were so stupefied and just things weren't really a threat with them, that I was kind of wanting to change this up a little bit. But you may have seen me in the video going in. I was like typing, going to their hit points and typing, 22. I have 22 hit points now. Doesn't work. I did want this to be generally a bad thing, so that's why one of them started off stupefied. I mean, these crystals are bad news. I think I had made that for sure. I kind of wanted her to have a little more to say, especially once I knew the paladin was here. I really kind of wanted them to kind of have a good talk, to really go back and forth of law and hope and chaos, and because she's a cleric of Grodius, of the harbinger of the end. So I kind of wanted there to be more there. But yeah, it really was awkward at the end of how much they questioned her, because it's the end of the one shot. Normally in another campaign, sure, I'd have plenty for her to say, and different things for her to divulge, and maybe another lead to get them to the next shipment in order to try and stop this cult. But it was the end of the one shot, so I was just kind of like, fortunately I really don't have anything to give you here. I mean, there was the loot in here. There was the two holy symbols that were broken, Pharasma and Nakiak? Akiak. Yeah, Akikak. Whatever. That guy. I don't think anyone actually made the connection, but those, with Grodius, those are the three deities that are inhabit the boneyard. And so it was to hint that something was going on there. But again, that would be more for building towards in a whole campaign, that if something of that magnitude was actually threatening there. So I definitely learned that I needed to spread out my preparation. I really prepared at the beginning, made sure that was very solid, and then the transition into the second half was weak. This is just me myself looking back on the session. I was also hoping that their zealous fervor, zealous frenzy, fanatical frenzy ability, that Rage Fang would rage enough and like shout them down, and like it would shut down their ability and fatigue them just from how ferocious he was. But this battle really didn't take long enough or anything like that to really come up. I had the crystal just really hurt these guys so much. I mean, mostly it was the will saves. They failed so badly that they became confused and really weak. But also because I couldn't figure out how to fix their hit points, which now I know how. But yeah, all in all, I think I'm fairly happy with how it came out. It definitely took longer than expected, which pretty much everything that you do in D&D that holds true. That's just how it goes. D&D, Pathfinder, any tabletop RPG, things take longer. But it's definitely interesting. It's been a long time since I've GM'd, so it felt good to kind of be back on that side of the table again to remind myself of just how tough it is sometimes. It can be tricky to get everything right, and you never will. But you can learn. Yeah, I mean, really, unfortunately, the only thing I could really think of for Billy, I think it's all I have listed on my sheet here, is picking the lock. Billy was supposed to be the one here that picked this lock, but he seemed to be showing no interest in doing so, so I knew I had somebody else that could do it, so she stepped up to do it. And then Ruktuk was all about the crystals, which he did for the most part. He played around a lot with the crystal, but with his psychic abilities and the mental stuff, I wanted to build something more with that. But just in the moment, it just never seemed right. I never got around to it because we were going so long. I was trying to push things, which is I'm not used to. Having much more free flowing. You can definitely do things like that more. Oh yeah, and another thing for the paladin is if she met the other queen, which I suppose if you've made it this far in the video, I can show you the other map that the party never even got to see. So yeah, this is Kara. She would have been leading them through the woods, and this is where they really would have seen the corruption in order to tie it to the crystals. But they never came here to get that connection. Again, mostly just because of time. This is just a bigger one that I colored and gave a couple of divine spells to. That's their queen. Yeah, here they would have seen all of the just junk lying around. There's a bunch of really random stuff in here. I meant to add some cutlery to here that they stole from the house. I forgot to do that. I would have definitely added that in the moment. But this really would have been this is, again, supposed to be more diplomatic. Because, I mean, there is a lot of creatures here. Between all the monkeys that you'll see around and some of the capuchins that are kind of hidden all around. And the capuchins are level 1 creatures. So they can be at least, a decent challenge. But this mostly would have been more diplomacy. The queen could have told her a little more about what the crystals are doing, but she really likes them and they're shiny, so that if they went in there and really wanted to smash or take them, it would have been very difficult to convince her not to. I mean, not impossible. They certainly could have done it. She is one that could be spoken to and reasoned with. But yeah. That's my experience with my first one-shot. It was a different experience. It's not something that I'm against trying again. It was an interesting experience all in all. Well, if you listen to me ramble for God knows how long. Oh my, almost 40 minutes. Yeah, I'll need to edit this down. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope this gives you a little hint into my approach to preparing a session and things like that, and learn from my mistakes as much as learn from the ways that I do it and things you might have enjoyed. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope I'll see you again soon. Remember to stay safe in these strange times, my friends, and as always, everyone, remember to be awesome. Till the next one, take care. Bye bye.